What is the Antichrist?
How do we articulate, some of these existential risks, some of the challenges we have? And they're all framed as sort of runaway dystopian science text. There's a risk of nuclear war. There's a risk of environmental disaster, maybe something specific like climate change, although there are lots of other ones we could come up with. There's a risk of, bioweapons. You have all the different sci-fi scenarios. Obviously, there are certain types of risks with AI. But I always think that if we're going to have this frame of talking about existential risks, perhaps we should also talk about the risk of another type of a bad singularity, which I would describe as the one world totalitarian state. Because I would say the political solution, the default political solution people have for all these existential risks is one world governance. What do you do about nuclear weapons? We have a United Nations with real teeth that controls them. They're controlled by an international political order. What do we do about AI? And we need global compute governance. We need, a one world government to control all the computers, log every single keystroke to make sure people don't program, a dangerous AI. And I've been wondering whether that's sort of a, going from, the frying pan into the fire. And so the atheist philosophical framing is one world or none. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but sort of one question is, and this was a plot hole in all these Antichrist books people wrote. How does the Antichrist take over the world? He gives these demonic, hypnotic speeches, and people just fall for it. And so it's this plot hole.
Now, real quick, before he goes on, realize what he's saying. He's saying that if there's an existential crisis, meaning a crisis that affects basically everyone, like threat of nuclear war, like bioweapons, like the threat of AI, like climate change, if there's an existential crisis, all right, philosophically, atheists might say one world or none. Either we have a one world governance to govern nuclear, govern AI, govern how we handle climate change, or we have no world at all. And he's serious about this. So he's admitting that this one world government system that has been predicted for 2,000 years in the book of Revelation and before that, really in the book of Daniel, is something that people today, not religious people, but even atheists are saying one world or none. Let's keep going.
This daemonium
It's totally, it's implausible.
It's a very implausible plot hole.
Right.
But I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop. And this is what you need to regulate.
It used to be that the reasonable fear of the Antichrist was a kind of wizard of technology. And now the reasonable fear is someone who promises to control technology, make it safe, and sort of usher in what, from your point of view, would be a kind of universal stagnation, right?
Well, it's more, that's more my description of how it would happen.
Right.
So I think people still have a fear of a 17th century Antichrist.
Yes.
We're still scared of Dr. Strangelove.
Right, but you're saying the real Antichrist would play on that fear and say, you must come with me to avoid Skynet, to avoid the Terminator, to avoid nuclear Armageddon.
Yes.
And I guess my view would be, looking at the world right now, that you would need a certain kind of novel technological progress to make that fear concrete, right? So I can buy that the world could turn to someone who promised peace and regulation if the world became convinced that AI was about to destroy everybody. Right. But I think to get to that point, you need one of the accelerationist apocalyptic scenarios to start to play out, right? To get your peace and safety Antichrist, you need more technological progress. Like, one of the key failures of totalitarianism in the 20th century was it had a problem of knowledge. It couldn't know what was going on all over in the world, right? So you need the AI or whatever else to be capable of helping the peace and safety totalitarian rule.
I mean, these things are so hard to score, but I think environmentalism is pretty powerful. I don't know if it's absolutely powerful enough to create a one world totalitarian state. But man, it is.
I think it is not.
It is
in its current form.
It is. I want to say it's the only thing people still believe in Europe.
Yeah, he's saying that global climate change. I mean, it's the things that we're seeing right now, the way the weather's been. I mean, look at those floods in Texas. My wife is a geotechnical engineer. She pays attention to the changes over the years of how weather's been affecting the ground, and these floods are pretty strange. These hurricanes, pretty wild. There's talks of like Hurricane Alley here in the United States has been shifting from Oklahoma to more of like a Missouri and Illinois base. But looks like Peter Thiel here, he's like, yeah, climate change could actually work to help us usher this in.